Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. Our guest this morning is one of those ordinary people that has gone on to do extraordinary works. And she has not been afraid, she and her family, to step out on faith and birth a great business. Her name is Casey Kelley. Her company is called Blended Designs. Now, Casey is was an engineer. She went from engineering to marketing to professional dancing with Missy Elliott and Will Smith. She's a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, and she has seemingly done it all and shows no signs of slowing down. We welcome Casey to the OPT Network for the very first time to talk about birthing a company that has just gone through the roof. Casey, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
I am grateful. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I am always grateful to share incredible stories. Let's talk about, first of all, how you had so much diversity in your career. You go from engineering to marketing to professional dancing.
Well, okay, so I majored in engineering at Purdue and hated it. So I was never an engineer. It was one of those things. I'm really good in math, like abnormally good in math. So growing up, it was always, you should be an engineer, you should be an engineer. And I absolutely hated it. It was just not for me. And, I danced forever. I've always danced. So I left school and moved to LA to become an actress. I was like, I'm going to be a star, but I was always booking jobs dancing. So the dancing jobs were paying my bills. And I always joke that if I would have gone out to LA to be a dancer, I probably would have booked acting jobs. So the acting job, the dancing jobs paid the bills. And while I was out there, I was expecting my first son. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back home. But then I'm like, I need to go back to school. I need to finish school. But at this time, I'm older. So I really had a better grasp on what I wanted to do with my life. And I had a cousin who was an executive for Coke. Before she worked for Coke, she worked for Nestle. And I just loved what she did. So I wanted to major in marketing. And while majoring and while I was in school, having a small child, I needed to have an internship that paid. And I kind of fell into this position with the Hershey company. That was absolutely amazing because it allowed me to be creative and analytical. So I was able to use those math skills and still use those creative marketing skills. And it was insights and analytics, category management. So I was the type of person, I don't know if you ever use your loyalty rewards card, like when you swipe those cards.
Uh-huh.
I use that data. So wow. I was the person that would look at the data and say, this is to build a story around the data. So it's taking the data, getting some information from it, and then finding insights, like in telling a story of what the data meant. So wow. That's what I did for a living.
And so did you love marketing at the time?
I did. I absolutely loved it. And I still do it. I do it within my own business. So like we have a weekly report that I created. And that report is still very structured in the same way where I'm taking a lot of data and then putting it into a snapshot where it tells a story and you can easily see what's going on, like what our trends are and how we're growing. I'm able to, we actually were, we were pitching to someone and someone that you and I had talked about earlier and they were really honing in on the fact that we had that we just bought a whole bunch of inventory because we bought 14,000 units for this year. And I'm like, I didn't just buy inventory, I used data. And so I looked at by SKU. So this is still me using my career background to understand, okay, if we sold 100 of these last year and there are 1,000 of our total sales, then we need 10% of these, whatever our goal is. And so I did it so I still did it in a nutshell.
Okay. And so you go through all of the things that you've known, but let me rewind back to where you were before this business was birthed?
So I was before I was working for a company that's private label. So
Sure.
loved what I was doing. I had a position where I was working from home. So it's like you can't be more have a better position than that. I'm working from home, but it was really a very stressful position that I had because I had worked on multiple accounts and I had major stress to the point that I was having panic attacks and anxiety. We don't talk within our community. We don't talk
Sure.
about mental health issues.
Sure.
So I was directly impacted by it. I took a leave of absence from work.
And so were you able, Casey, to tell somebody that loves you, your husband, your mom, anybody, listen, I am having some serious anxiety over this job?
They told me. My husband said, I think you're depressed. I think this is making you depressed. Like I would see, how you get the little Outlook pop-up notifications? I would go into full panic mode when I would get one from the person that I reported to. And I've never experienced that before. And I was not sleeping. I mean, I was literally getting, just a couple of hours of sleep a week because I was not sleeping. And so that, of course, is affecting my mental state, which is affecting me being able to effectively do my job. So I told my doctor, I was like, I'm stressed, I'm depressed. And he was like, you need to take a leave of absence for 12 weeks. So I took a medical leave of absence because of it.
And so in that 12 weeks, do you start to soul search and do you start to say?
Yes.
What do you start to say?
I started, I was seeing a therapist and, I'm talking about everything. And during that time, I realized I've never been happier. During that 12 weeks, I was happier than I had ever been. I wasn't as, like every little thing would set me off before then, but it was because it's a lack of sleep. It's just all the anxiety, the depression. I didn't realize I was depressed, even though my husband said, I think you're depressed. And I was having really bad headaches and I'm not having those anymore. So I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't go back to work, but what am I going to do? Do I find another job? Like, what do I do?
Leaving that thing that was really holding you in bondage to moving into something that not only you and your family love, but that would give you ultimate great success. But before we go there, I want to talk about understanding that this job had some effects on your mind and your body that were not productive for you. What else do you find out about your mental well-being when you start to see a therapist?
So I had been depressed before. When I was in high school, I went through depression. And so I thought depression meant suicidal. I thought that, I didn't feel despondent, like the world was coming into an end, like I wanted to kill myself or anything like that. So I didn't think I was depressed. I just really didn't believe that I was depressed, even though my husband was thinking, I think you're depressed because you don't have the motivation, you don't have the desire to do things that you love. And, with talking through a therapist, I'm learning that there's different stages of depression and there's different types of depression. So, within our community, we're supposed to work hard. We're supposed to, be stressed, because that means we're doing it. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
And we're taught that we have to work harder and be better.
And we see it. We see, our the generations above us, our parents, our grandparents, we see them work hard and that's just what you're supposed to do. And it impacting your mental state is not what's supposed to happen. And so it's like we have to break that cycle and just do something about it. So it's being able to actually have those conversations with my therapist. And I'm very open about, my struggles with anxiety and depression and how it has just transformed, even with everything going on. When we were taping the Today Show a couple of months ago, I had a panic attack while I'm getting my makeup done. It's like, how am I still having panic attacks when everything is as great as it is?
Mm-hmm.
Because
and then how do you calm yourself? How do you find your center, if you will, in that moment?
So deep breaths, number one. But I'm really big on praying. So, I'm praying, so the people that are around me are so supportive and they're so key. They know this is what's going on. The day the Today Show aired, we were getting ready for a major pitch that we were leaving for the next day. And right after it aired, I was around a group of people that it wasn't my family and friends. But when all those people left and it was just like my husband, my mom, and my sister, I literally just broke down. And it's because I was just overwhelmed, but they get it. They know that, this is something that I struggle with. And so they're able to help me through it. My mom, of course, immediately starts praying, whispering in my ear, praying for me. And those kind of things help me through. So I think it's important that people that struggle with those things have conversations with the people that are around them. But then the people that are around them need to understand it's not, oh, girl, you'll get over it. Oh, girl, it's fine. It's, okay, let's breathe through this. Let's work through this. There's something that's going on that's preventing you from processing things the normal way.
Wow. So let's talk about your business and how the backpacks that you and your family created are really just sweeping the nation.
So the coolest thing about our whole backpacks, we had, before we started, before I left my job, we had like a little side hustle. We were just selling T-shirts, just had a little store. We were on Etsy for a while, and it was really and truly a side hustle. During the time when it was time for me to go back.
So you're at the end of the 12 weeks.
I'm about 9 weeks in.
You're 9 weeks in. And so now are you and your husband having a conversation about,
do I go back?
Yeah, do I go back?
Do I go back? Yes. And so I called my pastor that married my husband and I.
Okay.
And I said, I've been on this leave and I don't want to go back. I feel like I'm not supposed to be there, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. He said, fast for 3 days. And I'm like, okay. So
that's not what I really wanted to hear.
You're supposed to just tell me, So we fasted for 3 days and we did a hardcore fast. No food, no water. My husband had to eat a little bit because, there's some medicine that he's on. And no social media. Like before, when I would fast from social media, except for the business, posting T-shirts or something like that. It was a straight, no television, nothing for 3 days. During those 3 days, my then 8-year-old son, Carter, said, Mom, I want you to make a bag that has my face on it.
What did you think when he said that?
I thought he was vain. So I was like, why? Absolutely not. You're crazy. But then at the same time, I wanted to talk him through it to let him come to the conclusion as to why it didn't make sense. So I'm like taking him through like the 4 P's of marketing, like, where would it be worn? Like just trying to understand. I'm like, who would carry a bag?
Really, you're just appeasing him, it sounds like. Are
exactly. you? 100%. Without rejecting him.
Okay, good.
I didn't want to discourage him, but I wanted him to see why it didn't make sense without me telling him that.
Okay. So are you a crafty mom when he comes to you and says, Mom, I want you to make a bag?
I'm actually not. Like, it was because we had these totes. We had these tote bags that had African-American women on it.
Okay.
And so he wanted a tote bag with his face on it for boys. And the way he was describing it wasn't a tote bag. He said, and I said, but who would carry a bag with your face on it? And he, thinks he's cute. So he said, everybody. and I'm like, but where would you carry it?
Okay.
And he said, to school, to Grammy's house. Like, he was very specific, but when he said school, it was like a light bulb went off. It was like ding, 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 ding. Like, that makes sense. A book bag. He never said book bag.
Okay.
But the way he talked through it, that's what it was. And because, of my background and what I was doing for a living, I had access to data. So I did research. I, looked up, within the back to school category, what do the sales look like? But then more specifically, I looked at African-American backpacks. I pulled I did a data pool of all of the backpacks that this one mass retailer had. And they had 670 backpacks that were described as character backpacks. And then I narrowed it. Well, they had more than that, but I narrowed it down to 670 character bags that were human-like. Because I didn't want like the cartoon characters like, SpongeBob or anything like that. I wanted human characters. And of the 670 that this mass retailer had, only 14 of them had children of color. And of those 14, 13 of them were part of a collection bag. So it would be the Disney princesses, and Tiana just happened to be one of the princesses, and Tiana wasn't a bag. Now, that's not to say that Disney didn't make it, but the buyer at this particular at this particular retailer was not buying just solo Tiana bags.
Wow. So now you go into your marketing frame of mind and you start to say, possibility. So you're fasting and you're praying. You've cut everything off. Your son comes up with this idea. You start to do what you know to do best. You start pulling. Why do you start pulling the information? Are you now getting an unctioning, or, because that's a lot?
Well, so this was March 2017. December 2016, I went to the Massachusetts Women's Conference, which I encourage everyone to go to. It's actually an amazing event. And Sarah Blakely was one of the speakers when I was there.
For those people who don't know who Sarah Blakely is, she is the founder of Spanx.
Yeah, and she's actually hilarious, first of all. But
what made you go to that? What made you go to that conference?
My mother at the time was living in Boston, and she the company that she worked for, my mom, her career was in diversity. And she was, an executive in diversity, but her company was a major sponsor of the event. And she had gone the previous years, and she's like, I think you should really go.
Okay.
And it was, even with the little side hustle I was doing, it was still a business. And she wanted me to, get some ideas. And
to see how you could expand your side hustle.
Right. So one of the things that Sarah Blakely talked about was she wrote on a vision board before vision boards were a thing, that she wanted to come up with an idea that people needed, but they didn't know that they needed. So I walked away from that. I was like, I got to come up with an idea that we have to sell a product that people want and people need, but they don't know that they need or want it because no one's doing it. Wow. So when Carter said Black kids on a backpack, I was like, this might be it. This might be what is happening. And I didn't even correlate it with the fact that Carter came to us with this idea while we were fasting. Wow. It wasn't until later that it was like, this is what God has planned for us. And
when do you know, Casey? When do you know?
I think I didn't know until April. I was scheduled to go back to work. And my anxiety was coming back. It was coming back. And I was like, maybe we should go part-time. And I was like, I feel like God is telling me not to go back. But to walk away from six figures is just, it's a huge
in the thing. Natural, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. And so, but everything was coming back and it was showing me. And I remember being on the call with HR trying to discuss coming back part-time. And, my doctor was, he would help, whatever documentation I needed because I just wasn't ready. And I remember sitting there and I'm like, I can't do it. And my husband was like, your anxiety's coming back. Maybe you should just not go back to work. Maybe you should negotiate a severance package. So I'm in the process of trying to negotiate a severance package with HR. The anxiety's coming back. And I literally hear a voice clear as day that says, I got this. And I thought it was my husband in the room. I've never, you hear people say, I heard God speak to me. I'd never heard God speak to me in 45 years. So it was like, I'm like, no.
What did you say?
Right. And I was like, what? And, he couldn't even hear me. So it was like I just calmed down immediately. And I told them, you know what? I don't need a severance package. I'll be all right. And I said, so why don't we just make tomorrow my last day?
Oh, wow.
Wow. And so, that was on the 24th of March. It was a Friday, March 27th, which coincidentally was actually my first day with the company. The years prior, was my first day employed by myself.
Wow.
And a month after that, I sent a pitch to the senior vice president of supplier diversity at Walmart. Within an hour of me sending him the pitch, I got a response back.
Quit it.
He called me. And so that's when I knew. That's when I knew this is what we were supposed to do.
So do you and your husband talk about Carter, your son Carter's idea, and say, honey, Carter has this idea that he doesn't see anybody on backpacks that look like him. And I've done all of this research, and I think that we could turn this into something. What is that conversation like?
So my husband is like, I am here. This is me. And then this is my husband. Like, we are like the perfect balance for each other. It wasn't a conversation because it was just like, I think I want to do this. And he's like, okay, whatever you want, I got you. So that's how our dynamic is. And he knows that I'm not going to just say something random. But it literally, from the time Carter came up with the idea to the time that I had product in hand, it was 3 weeks. So it's like all of these things just happened and they just fell into place. And coincidentally, the day that was my first day employed by myself, working for myself, that Monday morning, March 27th, I opened my email and there was an email from the manufacturer with the actual physical images of the backpacks being ready to be shipped to me.
So how do you come up with the images that we now see as blended designs?
We used real people. My husband we used Carter's face first because Carter wanted his face on the backpack. So we cartooned Carter and we called the backpack Carter.
Wow.
And so we did it.
Let me stop you right there though, because okay, you're dealing with anxiety. You've left your job now. You've told them, not only have you left your job, your good job, your 6-figure a year paying job, and you've told them that you're going to be all right. You don't need a severance package. Does God bring a peace over you that passes all understanding?
I had no anxiety. So it was like the only time I had anxiety is when it was time to go start talking about going back to work. It was when I was on the phone with HR. That's the only time I was stressed. And I was, I had been having bad migraines for years. I hadn't had a headache. So it was like, it was all of these things that I didn't put it together until much later. But there were all of these things that were saying, nope, this is what you were supposed to be doing. And my husband and I had a conversation. He works nonprofit and he works with kids and he absolutely loves what he does for a living. I remember when Nelson Mandela passed away, I was on the phone, I was driving to work and I was on the phone with him. And I was like, when there are going to be people that are going to tell their grandchildren how you impacted their lives. I said, there's not going to be anyone that's going to say, oh, Casey Kelley helped me decide to get 3 for $1 candy bars, And so I felt like this was my path to that. This was my path where I could make a difference in someone's life. And I had never felt with anything that I did that I was impacting someone's life.
Wow.
And this was the first time. And, that was a conversation that we had. It was like, we can help kids see themselves in ways that they'd never seen themselves before, because there's always so many negative images.
Right. So now you all are able to knit together Carter's idea that you expand into the nonprofit of seeing underserved kids in many cases that are not able to see characters or caricatures of people who look like themselves.
Right. And, the t-shirt that all the characters have on is this t-shirt that I have on. It's I Can Do Anything. And that was one of the t-shirts that we had before we had the backpacks. And this t-shirt happened to be Carter's idea. So,
wow. So when do you know, Casey, this might be a thing?
We We decided to do 1,000 backpacks. That's what we were going to order for our first back to school year. And combined on social media between Instagram and Facebook, we had about 5,000 followers.
Okay.
On July 7th, 2017, I remember this day like it was yesterday. I woke up to my phone is just going ding, ding, ding. Like all these orders are coming in. I'm like, what is going on? Like what just happened? And I knew that We Buy Black had posted us the day before.
Who is that?
We Buy Black.
Okay.
They're an amazing marketplace with Black vendors.
Okay.
And they're like the Black Amazon.
Okay.
And they shared our post on their Instagram on the 6th of July.
Just arbitrarily?
Just arbitrarily. Just shared our post because we had put some of our items on their platform.
Okay.
So July 7th, our phones are going crazy. My husband's on the golf course. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. So I get a message on Facebook that says, I found out about your company from Yandy Smith. I love what you guys are doing. I'm like, Yandy Smith from Love and Hip Hop? Up her Instagram, and sure enough, she shared We Buy Black's post that said, how dope would it be if all of our kids had these backpacks? It wasn't even a good picture. It was just a picture of our backpacks. Wow. And that's when I knew. And that wasn't until July. So we literally sold through the 1,000 that hadn't even arrived yet.
So now do you kind of go into panic? How are we going to produce the orders?
Everything was reactive. So we thought we would sell 1,000 backpacks. We did $250,000 in sales in 2 months. And, I say all the time, it all comes from Yandy, but for Yandy's post, we wouldn't have been exposed the way we had been. And, it was like a chain reaction because her post exposed us to this, which exposed us to that, which is, so it was like a spider web that all started from her. And it was very reactive. We made $250,000 in revenue, but we didn't make any money because we had to rush production. We had to rush inventory getting here. We had to pay FedEx inventory. So it was like $8 a backpack just to get the inventory to us to then turn around and ship it to the customer. So it was a nightmare. But we knew we were onto something. We knew that we would, that people liked the product and people believed in it. And we knew also that the quality was there because I really spent a lot of time working with the manufacturer to design the backpack to specifications that are similar to a backpack that's very popular and known for its warranty. So it was just,
So it wasn't going to just be any old backpack. It was going to be.
It was not. It was important to me that we weren't going to be selling backpacks at just some high price just for the sake of selling a backpack with a cute character on it. I wanted it to be durable, which in hindsight wasn't necessarily a great thing for us because we have people that say, oh, this is my 3rd year and I'm going to keep the backpack another year. And I'm like, no, buy another one.
Right. So let me ask you this, Casey, how then, okay, you start with Carter's idea. And as we look at the inventory of the backpacks, how do you begin to flesh his idea out so that it grows? You know what I'm saying?
Well, we wanted to use other people because, when we first posted I think Carter and the Zoe backpack were the first 2 that we posted. And people were like, do you have a boy with dreadlocks? You have this, you have that. So they
gave you ideas.
It was important to me to represent as many different shades of melanin as possible.
Diversity.
But it was important to have natural hairstyles on the little girls. I wanted everything to be very authentic to our history and our culture. There was even working with some of the artists, I was like, no, I need baby hair. So it was those conversations around making sure that the character had baby hair on it and things that most people wouldn't get, but our culture, we get it. We know that baby hair is important.
Mm-hmm. It got to be laying down.
Right.
Got to be laying down. So then you start to be everywhere. Tell me what the moment is like when Regina King Many of us that are old enough remember her from 227.
227.
All grown up and acting and directing and all of those great things when she sees Blended Designs.
We were we met Anthony Anderson, and we were he got us into the Emmy gifting
from
suite.
Blackish.
From Blackish, yes. And he got us into the gifting suites. He gave some of the backpacks.
How did you make that connection?
My husband went to high school with someone that knows him very well.
Okay.
And so he did the introduction. But he, got backpacks for the cast members, and he introduced us to a person that does one of the gifting suites. So we were in the gifting suite lounge when Regina King came to our little table, our area, and liked the bag and wanted 100 of them to give out. So the good thing is by the time we met her, we were no longer like starstruck like we have been, because at that point we had worked with, Chance the Rapper, LL Cool J's team called us. So, we're working with people. And, even with that one, we had already worked with the Golden State Warriors. We'd won the FedEx Small Business Grant. Now we're still, everything is still like, oh my God, I can't believe we're here, or we can't believe we're doing this, but we're able to have that professionalism now and not fan out. Although I will say this past weekend at Essence, I met Yandy for the first time in person, and I cried. Like I totally fangirled on her.
No, you didn't.
I'm sitting here like, okay, so I have been on set with, Debbie Allen, I've met Denzel, and I'm crying because I'm meeting Yandy Smith, because I believe
it's such a special moment. Yeah.
That she is what drove our company. And I'm like, I would not be standing here today if it weren't for you. So, and I cried, just totally cried. And I'm
so tell me how, the Golden State Warriors and all of, the sports teams, how did that happen?
So the Golden State Warriors was the first deal that we got. And the way it happened, we were at the Piedmont Jazz Festival in Atlanta. A woman bought a backpack. Just so happens that her best friend is the manager of community relationships for the Warriors.
Just so happened.
But
God, right? God is like in the mix here, right?
All in it. So, she bought a bag. For the woman that we didn't even meet her. She just, bought a bag from us at the event. And I guess her best friend saw the bag. Best friend's mom bought one for the grandchild. And so she calls us and is like, hey, my best friend just bought a bag from you guys. I got one. I absolutely love it. I love the quality. Would you consider doing this? And, we worked with them. We developed a design that we own, because it was important to us that we own the design so that we could use it on multiple items. It's a Squad Ghost bag. It's got diverse characters, so it's not a bag that we use. It's not on our website at all. But it's so that they can give away. And, we did a couple rounds with them, and then we were able to duplicate it with some of the other teams. So it's been with their most, I think all, but they have foundations. So we did it with the Golden State Warriors Foundation. And, the team goes out into the community and gave the bags out.
It's such an incredible journey and story, Casey. And we can't thank you enough for sharing your journey, a part of your journey with our listeners and viewers. Before we've got to let you go, tell people how they can connect with getting these incredible bags as we are on the cusp of back to school.
Yes.
And how they can connect with all of the things that you and your family are doing.
Our website, our social media, everything is Blended Designs, one word, blended past tense, and designs with an S on it. Our website is blendeddesigns.com. You can order the bags. We have pre-order items because we have some new designs that we're launching this year. But for the most part, we ship within a day of an order being placed. We went from the garage to a 5,000 square foot warehouse. So we're able to ship it on out.
Woo! from a garage to a 5,000 square foot warehouse.
Look at God.
Look at God. Casey, thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time. And I know that this is not going to be the last time that we talk, because you guys have so many amazing things going on that we want to be able to share with our listeners and our viewers.
Awesome. Anytime you need us, let us know.
Indeed. Hey, everybody. Casey Kelley, Blended Designs. Stay on point.